Join lifelong Star Wars fans Lauren and Steph as they dive into the world of Star Wars fan fiction, discussing a new fic each month, breaking down the writing style, characters, canon relationship, and more. This is your source for Star Wars fan fiction recommendations. So come on and find out why it's one hell of a fanfic.
Hey y'all, I'm Lauren and welcome to One Hell of a Fanfic, where we talk about a new Star Wars fanfic every month. And as usual, I'm here with Steph. How's it going, Steph?
Just fantastic. I am not in pain for the first time in 2 days. Weeks. Oh, my whatever. I had my wisdom teeth taken out and my face swelled. And then what you listeners don't know is we skipped recording last week because, well, my face was the size of a pumpkin. So we didn't do that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, wisdom teeth is horrible. Anything to do with mouth pain is horrible. So yeah, there's no use trying to force something like that. I was really feeling for you when you were telling me about it because, like, God, I remember when I went through that too. It was also just like a drama, like an unnecessary drama, and it just sucked so bad. So I'm glad you're mostly over it now.
Mostly. How about
the
you?
end
How
is
are you
in sight.
Yes, hopefully.
I'm good. Thankfully, my mouth does not hurt at all. So in that regard, I'm doing great.
Yay.
We've at least got one of us in good working order, you could say. Oh man. Okay, so what did we read this month?
Okay, as I said last time, I decided to read and subject you to a Hondo story called Sticky Fingers by phoenixyfriend. It was finished back in 2021, which may be the most recent fic that we've actually read. Most everything we read seems to be written a long time ago. It was only about 8,000 words, so it took me like an hour to read, which was great because, as I've mentioned before, I normally read right before we record. So I spent the last hour or so reading. Excitingly, there was spice level. Surprisingly, there was spice level. It was a spice level 1 out of 4, but it was still a spice level. And I was so excited.
Yeah, it was unexpected.
Yes, I literally squealed. I text my other half and I was like, oh my goodness, this fanfic made me squeal. He's like, I assume that's a good thing. I was like, it is a good thing. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I'm kind of surprised we haven't come across that ship sooner, but I guess we'll get into that in a minute.
Yes. Okay, so canon relation. This is canon divergent. It really, so the author itself had said this, and I quote, "Don't worry too much about the timeline. The only important part is after Hondo's debut and before Order 66." And that they grabbed something specific from the comics and tossed it in there a few years early. So it's just kind of, it's a story. And it was originally started as what in the fanfic world they call a shit post, which is just kind of like it's different than their usual post. It's just kind of this weird idea they came up with, and it's not very good, but it's kind of fun. So they go about doing it. And we will post a link to the original post when we go and put the show notes out there, or at least like the description out there. And the author's note on that was the first line for that shit post originally was, "I have a very stupid fix-it idea."
Stupid in the funnest way.
Yes. My favorite question to ask you, so I don't have to answer it. What tropes does this fall in?
Okay, honestly, I got nothing for this one. I think this is probably the first time that has happened. I mean, usually there's some kind of trope that I can trace it back to.
It's always found family.
Yeah, well, yeah, I almost always say found family, or like, I feel like the most common ones we see are like found family, enemies to lovers, I don't know, stuff like that. And yeah, in this one I did not really have any tropes, but I mean, that's refreshing because, tropes are fun because, I mean, there's a reason they're tropes, right? It's because, like, it's stuff that we love to read, classic kind of story formats and stuff like that. But it's also cool when you have something that doesn't really fit anything that you recognize. So yeah, it was refreshing in that way.
Yeah. And you can kind of see it reading through this story. It really was just a kind of glimpse into like an idea this author had, and it was fun to read, but that was really it. There wasn't really anything deep about it.
Yeah, I think you're probably I'm like trying to think about something deep, and you know what? I'm sure that I'll come up with something deep here in a minute though.
I trust you will. I, on
I
the other
can
hand,
make
I'd be like,
something
it
deep out of
was
just about
fun.
anything. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us, what was the author's summary?
Okay, so author summary was very brief. So they just gave us this little glimpse, which is in which Hondo Onaka accidentally saves the galaxy far, far away. And
Perfect.
that's really all you need to know going into it.
It does not cover most of what happens in this small fic, but you know what? That's the important part.
Yeah, there is other stuff that happens after that, but that's at least getting you started. But
Yeah.
why do you think people should read this?
I think people should read this simply because it is rather like one, it is a different view on writing. The way that especially the first quarter of this is written is very strange compared to anything else. I was like struggling to pick what kind of first, second, third, whatever it was that the it was written in. So it was interesting to read that. So I enjoy reading different kinds of writing styles. So this was that, a very different kind. But also you get a group of characters you rarely see in fanfic. Now, with the new series coming out, well, with the Bad Batch episodes coming out, where Ventress is going to be like put back on screen, we may start seeing more fanfics around that. But
Maybe,
who
yeah.
else we'll see, we'll never know until we get it at least. Why would you recommend this to someone else?
Well, okay, first of all, we always need more Hondo and we always
Yes.
need more Quinlan Voss.
Yes.
Spoiler, Quinlan Voss is in this.
Yes.
We always those two characters we need more of. I don't think I've ever read a fanfic with those two characters in it before. And also just the silliness of Hondo is just so much fun. Like I really enjoyed the fact that this fanfic is just very clearly like this author just like having fun, just having a good time with the story and the characters and just kind of like playing around. Like it I would say that's the best way I can describe this fanfic is it feels very playful and I mean that's a great thing to incorporate into your fanfic reading cuz you know, we have like the whole spectrum, especially in the types of fics that we've covered on this show. We've covered serious, depressing, dark, all of it. So it's nice to have something playful in the mix too.
This one definitely spanned multiple kinds. It wasn't just all humor. There was serious in it too.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, it wasn't even though it has like that playful tone, there's still other stuff going on in here too. And it's also like we've read some fanfics before that were very strictly comedy. And with this one, I don't know if I would even call it a comedy because there's not really any like, you know, huge jokes made other than Hondo just being himself, but it still has that kind of just overall fun kind of tone to it, which is cool that it's able to kind of have that balance. My summary, here we go. So, oh, by the way, spoilers are happening now. If you're thinking about reading this and you don't want spoilers, I'm going to start talking spoilers right now. So, the story opens with Hondo at a political mixer gathering sort of thing. He's there completely by chance. He's just someone's date, and which is kind of funny to imagine. And he entertains himself during this boring mixer by pickpocketing everybody. And he's just pickpocketing anything he can find. He's mostly looking for like money and jewelry, but he's just seeing what he can grab. And one of the things that he grabs is Palpatine's lightsaber, which he doesn't even realize at the time. The only reason he's able to get it away from him is because Palpatine is drunk. Otherwise, I don't think this would have been successful. And after this happens, he realizes that this is an issue. And he does the right thing and calls Obi-Wan and tells him about it. And Obi-Wan answers the call. And this is the part that Steph was alluding to earlier. Obi-Wan answered the phone and he's in bed with Quinlan Voss. I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming at all.
No.
Yeah. And also, and then, well, I didn't see it coming, but then I also was like, I can't believe I haven't come across that sooner. Like, I'm sure there's probably tons of fanfics shipping them out there. I would not be surprised if there were. And I'm just surprised that this is the first time I've come across that ship. But anyway, moving on. So, okay, I lost my train of thought now. Okay, so after after that's like a whole nother conversation. After Obi-Wan finds out about the lightsaber, him and Quinlan go to meet Hondo, get the lightsaber, get the info. They have to come up with a plan for what they're gonna do. So they come up with this like really convoluted plan, which involves lying to a lot of people because, first of all, Palpatine can't know that they're onto him. Anakin can't find out because, of course, if Anakin finds out, then this whole thing is going up in flames. And they also need to get rid of the lightsaber so Hondo doesn't get killed. So there's like a lot of like dangerous things going on. So Obi-Wan and Quinlan come up with this whole explanation, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I think it's not really supposed to make sense because they have to come up with this crazy sort of explanation for what they're doing. And so basically what they do is they end up going on their own investigation. They have like a fake story that they tell the council and Palpatine, but then they have their own investigation too. Part of that investigation involves Quinlan calling Ventress, and it sounds like maybe there's some like connections with the novel Dark Disciple because it sounds like they're kind of involved as well. So, but we don't get like a confirmation on that. It just kind of seems to allude to some of the events of Dark Disciple, and which is a canon novel. And Ventress agrees to help them because Quinlan convinces her that it's in her best interest to help them take down Darth Sidious. And then after that, they also have to de-chip the clones, which the way that they know that they need to do that is a lot of the method that Quinlan and Obi-Wan use to get their information about what Palpatine is doing is Quinlan is using his psychometry on the saber. And psychometry, what that is when you touch a sort of important artifact, then the person who has this ability is able to see the memories associated with that artifact. So it's like a special kind of force ability that Quinlan has. And he does have this in canon too. So it was cool to see him use that ability in a fanfic situation. But so in his usage of psychometry, they find out all of Palpatine's plans. They find out all the stuff about the clones having chips that's going to lead to Order 66 and all of that. So because Quinlan uses the psychometry, they are able to stop what Palpatine is doing and kind of just dismantle his whole plan. And they also know too that he's grooming Anakin as well, so they're able to put a stop to that too. So basically, because Hondo was randomly at this party and pickpocketed Palpatine and found the lightsaber, it led down this whole path, which resulted in Quinlan and Obi-Wan getting the information that they need to be able to stop Palpatine.
What else do you need in a story?
Yeah. I wish we could have got more Hondo, but I understand why. I understand why, like, Obi-Wan can't really trust Hondo with this type of a mission. This is, like, way too high stakes for Hondo to be, like, being silly about. But, I mean, basically, after Hondo turns over the lightsaber, he's pretty much out of there to save his own butt from getting killed by Palpatine. But I would have loved it if Hondo could have stuck around and helped them get rid of Palpatine.
Yes. Oh, me too. Like in say any of like the cartoons. And when Hondo was in an episode, he didn't just show up and do a thing. He showed up and he was there the entire episode. At the very end, he was like, "And I have a witty comment," and then he was gone.
Yeah.
Like that witty comment at the end would have been lovely.
I do love the witty comments. I mean, that's what makes him as a character. And we do get some great Hondo comments. Especially in the scene when Quinlan and Obi-Wan meet up with Hondo to like have this conversation in person. I feel like that's like Hondo at his peak in this story. But okay. Also, I should have mentioned as well, this was written in third person. So it's mostly from Hondo and Obi-Wan's perspective, but we do we switch sort of like who the character is that we're getting the most thoughts from. But overall, it is written in third person.
The first part where Hondo's like this, it's focusing on Hondo. I couldn't tell because it was like Hondo does this and does that, and of course Hondo does this other thing. And it's like talking about him that way, but it could also just be how he speaks about himself because he does speak about himself in a third person. So I was confused of like, is the entire story going to be from his perspective while he talks about himself in the third person?
Yeah, I kind of felt like it's almost like it at one point we shift from Hondo being the main character to Obi-Wan being the main
Yeah,
character. But I agree with you
yeah,
that
but
before that, it's like we're getting the thoughts as Hondo would have thought them. Like in his same sort of like speaking voice and stuff like that.
yes, I could definitely hear him in my head as I was reading, and it
Yeah.
was hysterical.
Yeah. It's cuz it's like that classic Hondo wit. I feel like this author captured that really well.
We had Hondo and Obi-Wan and Quinlan, Palpatine, Anakin, Mace Windu popped up for a little bit, and Ventress, and there's a mention of a couple of others, but they weren't really in the story.
Yeah. Yeah, these are pretty much our main people that actually have an impact instead of just being mentioned in passing by other characters. What did you think about how these characters compared to their canon counterparts?
I think they did a pretty good job. We don't see much of Quinlan in anything but a really dark disciple, and probably some comics, but I did not read those comics. Unfortunately, I will though. Um, so, but what I thought was funny about Obi-Wan is they made him such a germaphobe, and that that he wouldn't touch anything, and he wouldn't. There was so many comments about. Oh, even the part about where Quinlan was pretending that. Oh, I'm gonna spoil the fun part that I loved so much, but they're sleeping in bed together. But during a part down in the dark sub levels of Coruscant, they were out doing something, and he Quinlan was pretending to be a lover, whispering in Obi-Wan's ears, telling him dirty things, but really they were just exchanging information. But then afterwards, Obi-Wan was like, ugh, ugh, this spit on my ears. And he was just so disgusted with the fact that like someone got germs on him. And it
Yeah.
was
Well, and then when they're also in that person's house too, like they're in like a in the part where they go to the lower levels of Coruscant, they have to go into this weird shack thing for Quinlan to be able to call Ventress in secret. And Obi-Wan's like, yeah, that's the part where he's like, I don't want to touch anything. And he's like noticing all
yeah.
of the like, I don't know, unsanitary things in this place, which I could kind of relate to. I'm not going to lie.
I wasn't gonna say it, but
Yes. Yes. Um anyways, um
anyway.
did you have any other like scenes or anything that really stood out to you or reactions as you were reading this?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I squeaked. So we go through this whole section of Hondo, and then it just switches because Hondo's got to call. He decides he's got to call Obi-Wan or a Jedi that he can trust, and he decides on Obi-Wan. We get the scene where Obi-Wan is ignoring his phone because it's 3 a.m. and then he looks at his caller ID, which I thought was funny, and he doesn't recognize the number, and then finally Quinlan reaches over his shoulder and answers the phone, and I literally squeaked. I was so excited. I was like,
So is
"What?"
this a ship that you're going to be exploring more in the future? Is it safe to say?
Absolutely. It's gonna be like a Quinlan, Ventress, and Obi-Wan ship. It's gonna be fantastic. That didn't happen in the story, but that's okay. In my head, it will. It's what's coming next.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
You're
gonna write
you're
that
even going to write
fanfic.
the fic yourself if there's not one already out there. I can tell.
Or I'm gonna hire, like, Albert to do it, in all of his zero free time. And if anyone doesn't know who Albert is, he is part of our what do we call that? Brother podcast. I don't know. You work with them. The Cantina Cast over at
Cantina Cast.
cantinacast.com. You want anything Star Wars related, you're going to find it there.
Yes, there's a plug for
They should pay
Cantina
us
Cast.
royalties or whatever it is.
Yeah, because they've got tons of royalties. Yeah, but I mean, well, speaking of Quinlan, I guess going on the Quinlan train here, I enjoyed getting to see some more examples of him using his psychometry, because I feel like in canon, psychometry is discussed. We know what it is. We have a few examples of characters using it, but it doesn't really come up super often because it's kind of a rare force ability. So I enjoyed getting to actually see him use it a few more times than we get to see in like Dark Disciple, for example. So that was pretty cool. And also seeing the psychological effect that it has on him too. Because especially, he's touching Sidious's lightsaber. So he's seeing some pretty horrible things. And he's also learning about Sidious's plans for the Jedi, which has got to be very disturbing. So it really rattles him when he's trying to get this information. So it was interesting to see that actually play out with this character.
Are there any other Jedi that you can think of that have that ability?
So Cal Kestis does in the Jedi Fallen Order game. Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor. So he does. But if you're not really which I don't really play a lot of video games, so I read the book that Cal is in and I really liked that. But if I remember correctly in that book, I think he only uses his psychometry once, maybe twice. And then we also have a High Republic character that also can use psychometry. And his name is escaping me. High Republic Phase 2. I'm like picturing his face in my mind and I can't remember his name.
You have a face for a book character?
Well, he's in a comic, but yeah, his name will come back to me tonight at like 2 a.m. But yeah, those are the ones that I know of at least. There might be some others that I haven't come across yet, but I really liked the description of the lower levels of Coruscant too. That was cool to see. Like, I feel like this author did a really good job of capturing just how different the lower levels are from the upper levels and how it's just like a completely different way of life down there. So I felt like they had those details like really spot on.
Especially when they're like, and we're a couple levels below where sunlight even touches. And they talked about the dancers and the way that the houses were and the furniture. Like they did, you're right, absolutely capture what it's the poverty and misuse and lack of I don't know, anything down there.
Did you have a favorite scene?
Not particularly. I really enjoyed the entire first quarter with Hondo. Just listening to that while reading it and listening to it in my head. I could just see him with his his easygoing manner. Like, yes, of course. And I the jewelry and anything else by the end I was getting it. And it was fine. And the way he just I enjoyed also that he drugged people. I mean, that was terrible. Don't drug people. But he drugged the chancellor, and that's why he was so intoxicated.
Oh, I must have just read right over that. I thought it was because
he just
got
too.
drunk.
No, yeah. So he was drugging people occasionally too.
Oh gosh,
including the chancellor.
Well, yeah, there's there's Hondo's bad side coming through.
Yep. But like I found it amusing where he was thinking to himself about how people were saying different things about the chancellor, but he decided, you know what? He's just going to believe that he's just that good that he was able to pickpocket the chancellor. And had nothing to do with him being either crazy or old or the fact that he got drugged or was drunk. No, he's just that good.
He's just going to pat himself on the back. He's going to let himself have the win.
Yes.
Yes, you got to love a good Hondo line. And there's definitely a lot of them. I think my favorite scene, also Hondo related, I mentioned this earlier, but when Obi-Wan and Quinlan meet up with Hondo and Hondo's trying to like explain to them what he found, and they're, like, asking him questions, and he's just being difficult with answering their questions. That scene just had me laughing.
Yes.
That's what I love about Hondo is just his ridiculousness.
Did you to the end of this and have any thoughts or questions?
Yes, I did have a couple questions. So my first question was, so Hondo steals let me give some context to my question. Hondo steals the saber, tells Obi-Wan and Quinlan, and they're like, "Okay, we have a very limited amount of time until Palpatine realizes that his saber is gone, so we need to figure out what we're going to do." How long do you think it actually took for Palpatine to realize that his saber was gone?
Looking at canon, he probably realized really quick. Like, I don't believe that Hondo could have stole it to begin with. But, this is a story and it's fun. And he was drugged, but I feel like if this was canon, you would have seen Hondo being or not Hondo, but Palpatine realizing the fog on his brain and clearing it with the Force and figuring out what was wrong and then figuring out his lightsaber was gone
Hmm.
immediately.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, yeah, in that scene when Quinlan and Obi-Wan were like, "Okay, he's gonna figure out it's gone. We need to figure out what we're gonna do, and we need to try to stall for what he's gonna do." When they were saying all that, I was like, "He has already realized it is gone. Like that ship has
Yes.
sailed. He knows it's
Yes.
gone. It's just a matter of you can't let him find out that you have it." But he knows it's gone. I mean, I feel like he must have known like 30 seconds after it was stolen, probably.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was funny that they were acting like they had like a few hours, and I was like, "No, you don't have a few hours. You have a
No.
few seconds."
But they did have the advantage of, like, Palpatine is in a political space. He can't just leave to go attack them very easily.
Right. Yeah, he can't. Yeah, it's not like he has because all of his all of his ducks that he needs to have in a row to be able to do that aren't lined up quite yet. So, it's not like in Revenge of the Sith where he has all of these things backing him up because they found out about the plan sooner than was intended. So, I think in that way they did kind of have the upper hand because he didn't have all these insurances in place yet that he had planned out. So, my next question, it's revealed that Palpatine orchestrated Shmi's death. And the way that he did this is that he paid off a Tusken chief, I believe it was, and had them kidnap Anakin's mom, torture her, kill her. So that way it would be like one more thing that makes it easier for him to manipulate Anakin. So rather than how we have in canon, where it's, what happens to Anakin's mom is just like one more tragedy in the grand scheme of his life that just happens by accident. In this fic, it was actually part of Palpatine's plan that he deliberately had carried out. So, what did you think of that interpretation of that event? Do you like it better if Palpatine orchestrated it, or did you like it better if it was just something that happened just by chance?
It really, really feels like something that Palpatine would do. Like, it's not like he didn't know where to find me because I I think it's pretty much canon. At this point, he had something to do with Anakin's arrival in the world, right?
I think that that's debated. I don't
Okay.
know if I think it's hinted at, but I don't know if it's confirmed. I don't know. Personally, I don't know if I buy that, but I know that there are people who do think that. So some people disagree with me on that one, but
Yeah. Well, either way, it seems like something because he does seem to be like 10 steps ahead of everybody. And how do I best do this? And how do I manipulate that? And that seems like the perfect way to push Anakin over the edge, if not like, help his wife along to death or some other thing that would cause Anakin to go to the dark side. I mean, or maybe that wasn't his plan eventually, but it seems like a good way to push Anakin towards the dark side.
yeah. I mean, I will agree with you that I don't think that it's beyond the scope of what Palpatine is capable of. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting addition to have that be part of his plan as well. I think I do kind of like the way that we have in canon where it's just another tragedy that just happened by chance to Anakin, because I feel like that adds the idea that even if Palpatine wasn't there, Anakin might have still gone to the dark side. But I think it's cool to think about it this way too, with Palpatine as having even more of an influence on him than we originally thought.
That's sad.
Yeah, that's life. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, life. Well,
No, that's pretty
it
harsh.
gives and it takes away. I get it.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, tell me what questions you have.
Do you think that Obi-Wan was really that much of a germaphobe in real life, like in canon?
Probably not. No, I don't think so. I mean, I could see it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be shocked if, like, in some canon book, it was hinted at that he had a germ thing. But
Yeah.
I
It
don't
was
think
in
we've
none
seen
of the
anything.
books.
Yeah. I did
I
like
wonder
it, though. It was
I wonder
relatable.
why they added that element. Comedic value? Um,
I mean, I could see him having the type of personality that could be prone to being concerned about germs. Like, he's very, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he's got all his ducks in a row. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's in control of the situation, and I feel like there could be a correlation there. I'm saying that as someone that does have a germ issue. So, that's
do you have all your ducks in a row?
uh for the most part, yeah, I do. Almost a little bit too in a row. Like,
Hmm.
I need to like chill out some. You know what I mean?
Somehow we've got to combine your powers of ducks in the row with my squirrels on like Adderall, and maybe we can get like something in the middle.
Then we'll make, like, with those two things combined, we're like a normal person. I think that would be
Oh,
cool.
that would be great. Okay, so what we haven't discussed is that the story ended so abruptly. Like it was just like telling the story, and then suddenly it was like, yep. And that's how it all began towards the end. I hope you enjoyed it. What? Oh, I mean, it was a fun story but it really was just the purpose of the story was to get this idea that the author had out of their head and onto paper and be like, and that was the beginning of the end. I think they even used that, the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
If you could continue the story, what would you put in there?
Hmm.
More Hondo.
Yeah, more Hondo. I would like to see what Hondo does, like, I don't know, after he leaves and has to, like, flee from Palpatine, finding out it was him. I'd like to see, like, what becomes of that. Like, does he end up just kind of moving on with his life, or does this ever come back to him in any kind of a way? Um, like, does Hondo know what he did? Does he know that he, like, saved the Jedi? That'd be cool to see if he ever found that out.
Yeah. Hmm.
Also, I would like to see them confront Anakin about the Tusken Raider thing.
They do mention that at the end,
Yeah, they
in
do
the notes.
mention. I want to see that scene of them telling Anakin that he has to start going to, like, intensive therapy.
Yes.
I'm sure he didn't really take that well, but
No. Especially with,
that's life.
children on the way.
Right.
Catch the part where Obi-Wan mentioned what I thought was him saying that now afterwards, I like maybe he was talking to Anakin, but like about Anakin, but he almost seemed like he was saying Hondo was his past apprentice, which didn't make any sense to me. It might have been now thinking of it, might have been he was talking about Anakin being his past apprentice because they mentioned that later. Wish I could find it in the fanfic this quickly, but I can't.
And they were saying that Anakin was whose apprentice? Obi-Wan's apprentice or
That was
Palpatine?
that Hondo was Obi-Wan's apprentice, which didn't make sense. It might have just been the way that the fanfic was written.
I didn't catch that.
Okay. All right. Well, I might have just read it wrong.
Or
But I
maybe
was
they
so
meant
confused.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I caught that. Unless maybe they meant Anakin, or maybe I don't know. Yeah, I
Some
missed
parts of the
that part.
story was written in such a way that it was like people thinking about something, so you couldn't always tell what exactly was happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Should we talk about what we're reading next month?
I want to hear all about what we're reading next month.
Okay, I'm excited. Some people might be mad at me. I don't care. It's my month to choose. So, I chose a Jen Erso and Cassian Andor romance, which is controversial. Some people don't like to ship them.
I don't
But
understand why.
I don't know. Some people think that they were just friends. I can't relate to those people. I don't think that they were just friends.
They're listening to the wrong podcast if that's what they're going to expect out
No.
of us.
No, if you think they were just friends, your feelings are valid. I just personally disagree. So yes, that's what we're reading. Jen Erso, Cassian Andor. It is called Let's Give 'Em Something to Talk About by Jenny Weasley's. So that's gonna be fun.
Yeah. So what's funny is that normally I'm the one that picks the romances and you pick the serious ones. You picked
Yeah,
a romance this time.
I was feeling a little romance this time. Yeah. Especially because I have been for a while now, I have been on the hunt for a Jin and Cassian romance, and I just haven't really come across one that I continued with, I guess. So we're taking another stab at it.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Rogue One was like my favorite Star Wars movie.
It's definitely up there for me too. And that episode that you and I did on Cantina Cast, like over a year ago, where we talked about our favorite ships for the Valentine's Day episode, they were
Yeah.
like, I think they were my top one, or maybe my number two. They were like 1 or 2. So, I mean, it's serious for me. I'm excited to see how I feel about this fic. But anyways, so just as a reminder, we are on social media. So our Instagram is One Hell of a Fanfic with a period in between every word. And that's where we post reminders of what we're reading and when we release episodes. And then we're also on YouTube as well. So if you want to watch while you listen, our YouTube channel is called One Hell of a Fanfic. And I guess that does it for this month, but we will see y'all next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us at One Hell of a Fanfic. On this podcast, we discuss Star Wars fan fiction, but we do not own the rights to Star Wars or any of the written works we cover. We have no affiliation with Lucasfilm or the fanfic authors we credit for their work. For questions, please email us at onehellofafanfic@gmail.com.